When you're used to something, it can be hard to say goodbye. Parandis had been a part of Path of Exile for a long time, but I almost never interacted with it, or if I did, I had very low expectations. It's true that I got a headhunter from Parandis in Legion League, but that's the only drop that I could remember that stood out to me. In fact, I'd often joke that Kadiro was here again to try to scam me. He'd offer a bad item at a terrible price. And my dealings with Tujin have been far more fair. So overall, I wasn't unhappy to see Parandis go. I have far more mixed feelings about Prophecy, because, on the one hand, it's a very old, outdated mechanic. It's clunky. I mean, I haven't spammed silver coins in years. I just buy the prophecies. On the other hand, there's a lot of cool stuff with Prophecy. You can add quant to your maps via Tempests, which objectively is a bad thing, but it's also kind of cool and fun. You can juice them with Plagues, which again, objectively probably a bad thing. We don't need more stuff in our maps. We've got so many new mechanics that add stuff to our maps, but it just feels weird to be losing it after all this time. And some of my favorite unique items, the things that I always feel safe recommending to new players because they're inexpensive and very powerful, are also going away. If a build is wearing an Abyssus, I'm going to suggest a Diedbellow instead. You get a lot of the offensive benefits. There's a downside, but you can counteract it well enough with life gain on hit. And overall, it's a far less dangerous item to use than something like Abyssus, which if you're a new player is probably going to get you killed, and you're probably not going to understand why. Similarly, when someone says that an elevated Fizz taken as LE chest is too expensive, I can suggest Crystal Vault. It's not as good. It's certainly inferior to a rare like that, but it's far, far cheaper. You could often pick up a 6-linked one for 20 or 30C a few days into the league, which made it a great choice. The Effigon was used for a lot of memes, and most of them weren't that great, but every once in a while there'd be a standout build. And that's going to be gone. And while I never found the best use for the Oak Plank, certainly not as an endgame or final item, I think it did compete with things like Sappho's Frame and Prism Guardian as an early game item that you can pick up, use for a while that feels really good and really effective, and then replace when you get the better thing. So I'm a little bit sad to see all of these items going away in 3.17. At the same time, there's a lot of items that aren't going away. Iron Fortress is going to have its effect preserved. Azanath's Chant is going to have its effect preserved. And of course, Adziri's Mirror, Adziri's Reflection, yes, the one that people always tried to swap to scam you with, is going to be dropping from Queen Adziri herself, which gives even more incentive to farm her. So this is honestly a good thing. In other words, while I have some mixed feelings about Prophecy going away, I do think there's a net positive gain here. And GGG does seem to be open to bringing back some of the cool rewards like Monstrous Treasure at some point in the future. Now if you find this video interesting, and you want to know more about the mechanics of Path of Exile, and how items and builds interact, then be sure to leave a like here, sub to the channel, and ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload. In the near future, I'm going to be talking about a build I'm currently playing, a Seismic Trap Sabo, while also putting out some informational videos and guides for the various events. On the other hand, if you play other games, be sure to check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts, where I often talk about games like New World, Cyberpunk 2077, and many more. In some ways, the removal of Parandis and the removal of Prophecy are heralding the end of an era. One of the complaints that I often hear from players is there's just too much content in Path of Exile, and it's all piled on top of itself. And that's a very fair complaint. If you go away for 3 leagues, that's 3 new systems that you have to learn and interact with, and very rarely are they self-contained. I mean, Heist is super profitable, but technically you don't have to interact with it, whereas Prophecy is woven so much into the core game that you're probably going to have to learn it sooner or later, or if you never did, then you are actively sabotaging yourself. What I'm hoping to see is a reduction in the number of things that new players need to learn coming into the game. A clarification of where to go to do what. You go to Delve to do delving. You go to Heist to do heisting. And for anyone who has played for a few recent leagues, hopefully the mechanics will be fresh enough in their mind that they can at least remember the basics, because you don't really have to be the expert on every mechanic. You just need to know enough to get by and make some decent choices, then pick 1 or 2 to really become an expert on. This also helps to reduce bloat and dead content. I mentioned at the start of a video that I didn't really care about the removal of Parandis. That's because it was largely dead content. There's several other types of content that are either mechanically uninteresting, do the exact same thing as other types of content, or don't really serve a practical purpose. and we could all see those go without much of a loss to the core of the game. We could also see things reimagined. Anyone who's paid a lot of attention to interviews of Chris might remember that Beyond is just red bandits, and that's kind of boring. From a visual perspective, Beyond isn't anything special. We've seen two far more interesting reimaginings with both Scourge and Delirium. And while I'm sure anyone who loves to juice their maps would be very sad to see Beyond go, for someone starting in 3.18 or 3.19, I'm sure they'd be much happier to see the far more visually exciting Scourge League, as opposed to boring Beyond. Although, if Beyond is removed and Scourge replaces it, I really do hope that they make a lot of fixes to the core mechanical issues that Scourge has, and are honestly very anti-new player because it functions in a way that is almost the opposite of everything else in Path of Exile. But that is another rant for another video. Instead, today, I want to wish a warm goodbye to Navali. I may not rescue you from the Fawn on my next journey through Rayclast, but I've been able to craft a lot of really insane items due to the metacrafts that were available through Prophecies. I've been able to use a lot of the cool uniques as some of my favorite builds. I'm sad to see Prophecy go, but I'm also hopeful. Change is good for Path of Exile, and if the game stops changing, it's going to start dying. So my hope for the future is, as we see older mechanics removed, we see new and interesting ones take their place. Things that feel rewarding, things that hopefully are a little easier for new players to get into and understand. And ideally something that's visually exciting without being as laggy as Delirium. And for everyone who stuck around to the end of the video, I have a special treat for you. I have yet again partnered with my friend Jason to answer the world's wacky, weird questions, like what happens when you double corrupt a headhunter? Does it poof? Does nothing happen? Or does it become really cool? And so, without further ado, here you go. Alright, so this is the sacrifice, Society's Remorse. Which is perfect, since it is your gift card. We've got...
God.
Are you nervous?
A fairly good divine. I think it's going to die, but it's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
About that! You thought it was going to die. You thought wrong.
I thought it was going to die.
You thought very wrong. So congratulations on your... I'm not sure how much. And with that, I turn the question over to you. Are you happy to see Prophecy go? Are you sad because of some of the items being removed that you loved or used in past builds? What's the next Link mechanic that you'd love to see put on the PoE chopping block? And of course, the most important question of all, when you double corrupt a headhunter, what is the result that you expect to get? I'd love to hear all of those thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And again, a special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. If you want to support me, you can do so by clicking the links down in the description below or on screen right now. You can also support by making purchases through my Nexus page. Or if you just want to chill and hang out, be sure to join the Discord. Again, links for everything are down in the description below. Thank you, and have a great day.